Welcome to The Brain Changers, a podcast about learning how to revolutionize the way you think and live by mastering your mind. We're your hosts, mother and daughter duo Rebecca and Yvonne King from Moonbeam Monday. Our goal is to empower you to live the life you choose by teaching you how to retrain your brain. Some people tell us it sounds like mind control, and it is, but not the way you might think. This is about you taking control of your own mind rather than letting your mind control you, so you can choose to live a life free from the expectations of others. No matter what you've experienced in the past, you can create positive change and transformation by learning how to master your mind. We know this because we've done it. Between us, we've survived cancer and stroke and eliminated debilitating anxiety and depression. We've turned our pain into purpose through the power of our mind, and we're now here to support and guide you to do the same. In this podcast, we share valuable insights about how your brain works, why you think, say, and do the things you do, how to begin the process of change, and why it's necessary. Because we know that when you change your mind, you change your life. Thanks for joining us. Let's go.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of The Brain Changers. I'm Yvonne.
And I'm Rebecca, and we're excited to have you here with us again today. Now, in our last episode, we explored how powerful our brain is, and we talked about how we really are in charge of our own thoughts, our emotions, and our choices, and no one else is responsible for them. And we have more control than most people realize. So today we're going to dive even deeper into this fascinating topic.
Yes, today, Beck, we're going to explore the unconscious mind. We're also going to briefly talk about the imprint period of our lives, or infancy, when most of our perceptions, beliefs, perhaps we should call it our roadmap of the world, is set down. That's when we're most impressionable. And we're also going to talk about how we can upgrade our mental software for better results. So let's get started.
Okay, yes. So we're going to begin by talking about the unconscious mind. And I really love to describe this part of our mind like it's the library of our life. So our mind stores every experience that we've had, every piece of knowledge that we've ever acquired from our whole lives. And so what happens is that when we encounter a situation, our mind essentially reaches into the library, unconsciously, of course, like we're taking a book off the shelf. Now, this could be a situation that we've been in before. Perhaps it's a habit that we've tried to break in the past. So we've tried to break this habit in the past, but we've stored this memory of what we did the last time, and that's become our default for this situation. So it doesn't matter that we've made a conscious decision to change something this time, because our unconscious mind already has a plan based on what we've done in the past, that memory or that pattern that we've already had. And that's because approximately 95% of thought, emotion, and learning occur in the unconscious mind. So what this means is that it's occurring without our awareness. And that's what we talk about in terms of being conscious. So this means that a huge part of our daily actions and decisions are influenced by this part of our brain that, for the most part, remains hidden to us. And so given that 95% of the brain is unconscious, or the mind is unconscious, 5% of what we think, say, and do is conscious. Only 5%. But that's until we become aware of the power that our mind holds.
That's incredible to think of it, that we're basically using or aware of 5%,
Yeah.
or in other words, a very small proportion of our thoughts and actions. That makes me think of, sometimes when I've been driving somewhere
Yeah.
I arrive at my destination, but I have no real recollection of how of every part of the journey on the way because I'm sort of in automatic pilot mode.
Yeah.
So what you're saying, Beck, is that's our unconscious mind at work managing the routine tasks. And this, I guess, leaves our conscious mind free to think about other things.
Mm.
So you've got to ask, where does all this information come from? Well, this is where the developmental periods of our life come into play, or as it's often referred to, the imprint period. And this is the period of time from our birth to the age of approximately 7 years of age. We know that during this time, a child is absorbing information from everyone around them, from their parents, their caregivers, teachers, even the media that children consume. And it's during this time that we all form our fundamental beliefs and attitudes about not only ourselves, but about our world, the world that we inhabit.
Yeah, that's incredible to think, isn't it, that we're absorbing from the moment we're born. A lot of people might say, "Oh, that's okay. They're young. They don't understand what we're saying," but they might not understand the words that we're saying, but they certainly are picking up on all of our other senses, our energy, our feelings, and even our tone. So after that period, after the imprint period, from ages approximately 7 to 14, we move into what's called the modeling period. And this is where we start to imitate those around us. So we're looking at our parents, again, our teachers, our peers, and we model our behaviors on theirs. So that's probably why we hear things like, "You're so much like your mum," or "You're so much like your dad," when you do that, which I hear a lot. I know you say that to me. You've even said to me, "Gosh, you're so much like your nan," when you say or do that. And that's probably why, because we are modeling these things um, that we've picked up at a very, very early age. So by around the age of 10, many, many aspects of our personality are already formed, which sets the stage to who we're going to remain. It doesn't mean that we can't change this, but this is generally how things go, how we become who we are. So it's this fact often I see a lot of like surprised kind of faces when we talk about this in the events that we run, is that approximately 70% of our identity is already formed by the time we're 7 years old.
That's an incredible thought, and I think something probably that a lot of people would not be aware of. But if you think of it this way, if you think about the way you are today and the household that you grew up in, and many of the values or the beliefs that your parents held are likely to be values and beliefs that you hold yourself. For example, imagine you grew up in a household where perseverance, hard work, these were valued, then you're likely to carry these values into your own adult life.
Mm,
Conversely, if you were constantly told that you weren't good enough, that you were an idiot, that you're no good at this or you're no good at that, then these negative beliefs also will be influencing you today.
mm,
So, this is a good time to talk about beliefs and how incredibly powerful they are.
mm,
Our beliefs are generalizations about how the world works. And as we said earlier, they're often formed during our very early years. And it's clear that many people are running on outdated systems. It's
mm.
like using old software on a computer, which is why they can't get the results they want. You imagine if we were still trying to run today's programs on our computer on the early computers like Amstrad,
Yeah,
that was our first computer.
yeah,
It's just impossible to do. You can't do it.
that's right.
Yeah. So that's a very good way of thinking about these beliefs and habits that we bring into adulthood. Are they still serving us? Are they something that we should still be running our lives with?
Yeah, I love that analogy. And mobile phones just came to my mind when you were talking about that because, how often do we upgrade our mobile phone?
Mm.
There's certain companies that are really great at bringing out new designs and new features on our phones. And on average, I'd say most people update their phone or upgrade their phone every 2 years.
Yep.
So we will spend a heap of money on upgrading our phone because most of us are pretty attached to our phones. Our life is on our phones these days. And yet we don't put as much time and effort and even money into upgrading the software that's in our head, which is much more powerful than a phone. It can completely change the way that we think, can change the way that we live. So I really love that analogy. And, going back to that computer or even the phone analogy, when we want our computer to do something, but it just won't work, it's really, really frustrating. And, you talked about why we can't get the results that we want. And this is why, is because exactly like you said, our software is outdated. So, here's an example of how that might play out for somebody. So you gave us some examples about children. So imagine a child that was often told that they're not good at math. So they might develop a belief that they're inherently bad at math. So even if they've got the potential to excel in that particular area, this belief can hinder their performance through their education and into their career. And this example actually rings really true to me because thanks to a very crappy teacher that I had in primary school, I was way behind in math when I went to middle school or high school as it was back then. So I was put into what was commonly referred to as the bottom maths class by even not only the students, but by the teachers. And so a real stigma came along with this. And it was simply because I was behind. I was told that I wasn't good at math. And I had this label on me because of the class that I was placed in. But what I learned as I got older, once I'd actually left school and left, math classes behind me, was that I'm actually pretty good at math. Simple math. I don't love algebra or anything like that. But if I'd been nurtured in those classes rather than labeled, I quite possibly would have had a very different outcome. And I may have even followed a different career path. So that's just one example. And I'm sure everybody listening can probably think of one. I'm sure you've even got one, probably surrounding art, if that had
Yeah.
been nurtured. So, if we're taught about things like that, if we're labeled with things like that, it can really shift the trajectory of our life.
Well, it can. It's the same as, how often have you heard people say, I'm no good with money.
Yeah.
I'm no good with this. I'm no good with that. Um, that really is just a belief that has been passed on to us. And the unnecessary thing about that is that it unconsciously sabotages
Mm.
our success in life. So the thing about these outdated beliefs is that they can really limit our potential and keep us stuck in unfulfilling patterns. How
Mm.
often in your coaching work back do you hear people say they're stuck?
Yeah.
They're stuck in a pattern,
Yep.
or which means that they're stuck in beliefs about something in their life. And
Yeah.
these unfulfilling patterns, they just keep operating silently in the background, just like that computer, that
Mm.
software is operating silently in the background, doing everything that we want it to do.
Mm.
So it's these unfulfilling behaviors or limiting behaviors and beliefs that are influencing our decisions and behaviors without us even realizing it, because they're coming from the unconscious mind. So
Mm.
this is what we're all about changing.
Yeah, that's right. And we talk so much about this. And you're right. I hear that word stuck all the time. It's very, very common. It's one of the first words that a lot of people mention to me when they come to coach. And these most of us have these limiting beliefs. In fact, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say all of us have these limiting beliefs and these patterns running in our unconscious mind. And this is why we talk a lot about becoming conscious. You know, it's part of our brain model that we'll talk about in a future episode. But becoming conscious, until somebody comes into our sphere to even introduce us to the fact that this is a thing and that it's possible, we're not even aware that this is what's happening. So with these patterns that are running in our unconscious mind, when we decide to make changes in our lives, we usually start with what we can see around us, you know, consciously. And that's usually changes to our environment, changes to our skills, like updating our skills, and changes in our behaviors, isn't it?
That's right. You know, for example, that might mean that we attempt to change our environment, which might mean that we consider moving to a new city or even a new house, or renovating our home, or just even rearranging our home or our workspace to in the hope that it will promote better productivity,
Mm.
because a new environment can give you a fresh perspective and help to change or break old habits, can't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I know whenever I move my furniture around or paint my walls, which I do often, and I've done this since I was a kid, haven't I?
You
But when
have.
I was always moving my bedroom furniture around. But when I do move my furniture around, when I paint my walls, I feel refreshed and I feel energized. But in all honesty, it doesn't last because I haven't made any real lasting change. You know, I've just changed the things around me, what I can see. So, along those lines, learning new skills is another common approach. So, we'll often address the environment and, you know, that can make some changes, but then we sort of go, oh, well, what else can I do? So, for example, you might take up a new hobby like painting. That's something that I love, which can be a really great stress reliever. And of course, it's a way to express creativity. Or you could learn a new language, which not only broadens your communication skills, but it also can open up new cultural experiences. So upping your skills is another thing that we tend to do when we feel like we need to change something.
That's true. Or we could consider changing behaviours, which might involve maybe adopting a healthier lifestyle, such as starting regular exercise routine, perhaps practicing mindfulness, or improving your diet.
Hmm.
These changes can have a significant positive impact on your physical and mental well-being.
Yeah, and all great things. These are all great things to do to improve your life, and we're all for these things. It's important to have things that interest you in your life, to, you know, bring new people into your life, to alter the behaviors that you know aren't really getting you what you want. But while these changes are beneficial, they don't address the root cause of our challenges and why we want to make change in the first place. So we really need to be going deeper to create this lasting transformation. Otherwise, these new habits or these new patterns or these you know, wanting to feel different, it doesn't stick, does it?
No, it brings to mind that old saying, you know, moving the deck chairs on the Titanic. It's not going to stop the ship going down, is it? So there's superficial changes, and they can be beneficial. But what we really need to do is upgrade our beliefs. If
Mm,
we want to create lasting change, we must focus on changing our beliefs, on understanding our values,
yeah.
and aligning with our identity and purpose. And this involves examining the core beliefs that drive our thoughts and actions and consciously choosing to adopt new empowering beliefs. So this involves action, doesn't it?
Mm.
All of these things involve some action on our part.
Absolutely. And that is the key word. And again, if you've ever watched any of our webinars, if you've been to any of our events, you will know that we use the A word a lot, action. It's about taking action because otherwise nothing changes. What's that saying? Nothing changes if nothing changes. So
Yes,
it's
right.
about taking inspired action. And
Yeah.
we're really going to focus on those things like beliefs, values in our next few episodes, where we're going to dive a lot deeper into these because they really are crucial aspects. And I know that we've mentioned this in a previous episode, but it's something that we always come back to. It's that Gandhi quote: your beliefs become your thoughts become your words become your actions become your habits become your values, and your values become your destiny.
That is so true. So, Beck, armed with this knowledge, we can aim to upgrade our internal software for better results in life. So, that means that we can start to make changes to the way we think and the things that we believe. This is going to get us the results we want
Mm.
rather than the results we're getting by default and that perhaps are not serving us well.
That's exactly right. And they're not giving us that life that we ultimately envision for us or envisioned and have perhaps lost along the way.
Hmm.
Yeah. So that does bring us to the end of today's episode. Short and sharp, we're all about the conscious and the unconscious mind. We hope you've enjoyed learning more about how your mind works and the importance of becoming conscious of what you think, say, and do. Because understanding this can really lead you to making these lasting changes and transformation in your life and to see the world differently. So thank you once again. We're the Brain Changers. Thanks for tuning in. And remember, when you change your mind, you change your life. Thanks for listening to this episode of The Brain Changers. We hope you've enjoyed the conversation today. Please like and subscribe to stay up to date with all the latest episodes. Our mission is to reach as many people as possible to help them revolutionize the way they think so they can change their brain and create profound transformation. Please help us broaden our reach by sharing this episode with someone you know will benefit. And remember to tag us on socials at Moonbeam Monday and leave a review. And remember, when you change your mind, you change your life. We'll catch you next time for another episode of The Brain Changers.